Hi, this is Donna. Welcome to DD Paper Crafts, and in today's video we're going to be making this, which is 2 treat boxes. I'm just going to move that out of the way because of the glare. 2 treat boxes where the lids lift up like so, and then the outer case, which has got a section here so you can add additional treats inside. So let me show you how I put the project together. My pots are 2 inches square by 2 inches high. So if you want to make your pots a different size, you'll need to adjust your cardstock accordingly. You'll need a piece of card which is 4 times the width of your pot plus a 1/2 inch tab. So I'm going to score at 2, 4, 6 and 8 inches, and my piece is 3 inches wide, so I'm going to score at 2 inches for the height of my pot. My pot, as you can see, has a taper on it. I'm going to rotate the cardstock in the scoreboard so I've got my 1 inch tab at the top, and I'm going to score at 1/2 inch down to the 1 inch score line, 1.5 inches down to the 1 inch score line, 2.5 inches, 3.5 inches, 4.5 inches, 5.5 inches, 6.5 inches, and 7.5 inches. So our piece looks like this. Now I'm going to create the taper for my pot. So if we work from left to right, I'm going to score from the end of this score line here diagonally down to the edge of the cardstock. So I'm going to place my stylus in the start point and score. So I've got my first diagonal score line. I'm going to move along to my next score line, and I'm going to score from here up to the end of this score line. So I've created a section just in that slightly you can see. So I'm creating this effect. So I'm going to do that all the way along. So I'm moving along to my next. So that's my 2 inch section. And within each 2 inch section, I've created a funnel look like so. If it's your intention to decorate the outside of your pots by stamping, then I would do that now before we do the cutting and the gluing. And obviously you only want to stamp within these funnel sections that we've just created. Fold along the 1 inch score line. Take your scissors. So we're going to, if we work from this outer edge to the other end, we're going to cut up the first score line, up the second score line to create a tab. Skip the next score line, cut up the next one, up the next one. And what we're doing is we're basically creating the tabs for the base of our pot. Skip the next score line, cut up the next one, up the next one, skip the next one, cut up the next one, cut up the next one, like so. So we've got our flapped sections. If we go back to this end, we can cut away up the diagonal to shape our end. And then if we flip back each of the unscored squares, move those out of the way, like so. We can remove each of these squares which are left behind. With our 1/2 inch tab on this side, if we fold that under, we can cut from the bottom of the tab up to the top edge, and then we will wedge these when we come to join the box together. So we'll now start our folding to create our pot, working from the right to the left along the vertical score line. Create a valley fold. You can do that all the way along, and then with each of the diagonals we want to create a mountain fold. The end diagonal, just fold that under, and where the top is protruding, just trim that up with the top. And we're going to add glue to one side of the triangle, like so, and we're going to fold over and join up the two diagonal score lines. So inside we've got our additional cardstock. So work your way along and do try to get the glue right up to the tip of the point. So we want to do that on the 3 full sections, and with this in the inside you can either trim down some of the excess, or I'm just going to add some glue and just fold that over and adhere that on the inside. So my piece will be adhered at the back, and I want my join to be in the back right hand corner. So this square here will be my full square on top of the base, so I'm going to pull that square back out of the way, and before I glue my pot together I'm just going to take a slice or a wedge out of each of the remaining 3 base squares. So now I've done that, I'm going to keep that one to the back, just so or to the front. I'm going to add glue to my end tab, fold it around and join my pot together, and then I'm just going to glue the base together. To finish off the edge of the pot, I've cut a piece of the same DSP in 8.5 by 1/2 inch. I've run a thin bead of glue and I've worked on one side at a time. For the lid of the pot, I've chosen some which is soil coloured, and I've cut a piece which is 2 3/4 inches square, and I'm just going to score on all 4 sides at 1/2 inch. Fold and burnish the score lines. Now with the lid that I've already made, I've just made it as a tray which is going to sit in the top of the pot like so, and then I'm going to have my decorative flowers on the top, and the decorative flowers are almost going to be how I'm going to get the lid out, although you can see that the lid does come out of the box very easily. In order to create this lid, it's a very simple tray. Cut up the 2 score lines in the side facing you and cut a wedge out of each of the corner pieces. Do the same on the other side, and then you would merely add glue to the 2 tabs, fold those over and glue that down. So we can do that on this side. If you wanted to have your lid so that it hinged inside and flipped back, what you would do, cut up the score lines as we did previously, cut away these two outer squares. So if you imagine they've been removed, add glue onto this tab here, adhere that into the back of the pot, and then that would just flip down. So you can either have the hinge lid, which is attached to the pot, or you can have a separate tray. That's your choice. There are my two pots ready for the rest of the project. And you can obviously make as many pots as you wish or change the size up of them. To make the base, I've got a piece of cardstock which is 8.5 inches square, and I'm using a silver metallic. And along one 8.5 inch side, I'm going to score at 3, 4, 7, and 8. Rotate the cardstock, and along the other 8.5 inch side, we're going to score at 1, 7, and 8. Fold and burnish along all of the score lines. And what I'm going to do is, this is going to be my top panel because my back join is going to be at the back. I'm going to flip the cardstock over, so I'm working on this oblong section here, and I'm going to create the apertures for the pots to sit in. I've created the box 1 inch deep so I can get an extra gift or some treats in the box, but I don't want my pots to sink into the base box any more than 1/4 inch. So I've measured up from the bottom of my pot 1/4 inch, and this width across here is approximately, it's actually between 1 1/8 and 1 1/4 inches wide. So I need my apertures to be just over 1 1/8 inch. I've allowed for a 1/2 inch gap all the way around the box between the top of the box lid and the outer edge of the piece. I've allowed a 1 inch gap between the tops of the box. So my two boxes, my two pots are going to sit roughly there. Now, if you have some square dies, obviously what you could do is you could sit your pot in the square die until you get the dimensions of the die which meet your requirements, and then if you've got a larger die cutting machine, cut the die into your cardstock. I'm going to cut mine by hand. I'm going to use my scoreboard just to help me. And in fact, I probably should have done this before I folded and burnished. So you might want to do this before you fold and burnish if you're going to do the measuring. I'm going to place my ruler in against the 1 1/2 inch line and just do a pencil mark again at 6.5 inches. Rotate, do the same at 2 inches. And 4 inches. And I'm going to do the same at 4 inches, and then I'm going to do one at 3.5 and one at 4.5. So this is my 1 inch gap between the two tops the top edges of the pots. And within this 2-inch square here and here, I'm going to cut my 1 1/8 of an inch aperture. Okay, so I've calculated my 1 1/8 inch squares, which is roughly 7/16 of an inch across from the 2-inch score lines. I'm going to cut the apertures, and if need be, I can make them a little bit bigger. And if they're a little bit over, it doesn't matter. All I'm trying not to do is I'm trying not to restrict the height that I've got available within the bottom section of the gift box, because obviously this bit is going to sit down below. So the accuracy of these squares really depends on what it is that you're intending to put in the bottom tray. If you've got something which is only 3/4 of an inch high, then obviously you don't want your pots jutting down any more than 1/4 of an inch if you've only made your base 1 inch high. And if I just slot my pots in, you can see I've got that much of an overhang on the inside, so I'm quite happy with how that's turned out. These are on the inside, so it doesn't matter, but I'm going to remove all the pencil marks. So if you're using measurements the same as mine, I've got a 1 inch gap at the top and the bottom before my apertures start, and my apertures are roughly 7/8 of an inch from the score line, from the 1 1/2 inch score line here, and the same here. So now we can put our box together. I'll do it from this side so you don't get the reflection of the cardstock. So with the 1/2 inch tab and the 2 apertures running vertically, I'm going to cut up the first score line and cut away this corner and just cut a wedge into the tab, like so. I'm then going to cut up the next score line and just create a wedge, cut up the next one, up the next one, and just cut a wedge into these. So this one here I'm leaving straight, and I'm going to cut a wedge into each of the remainder. So this is how one end looks. So this is effectively going to be our closed end. So our box is going to adhere along here. These two will come in, and this will fold over at the end and create a nice flat end. And at the other end, from left to right, we're going to cut up through past the first score and up to the second score line. Rotate and completely cut this square away, and we want to cut that as straight as possible. Cut up the next score line, rotate and cut away the outer section, so we have our tab like so. Cut up the next score line, through the first score line up to the second score line. Cut up the last score line, rotate. We're going to cut a wedge into the long glue tab, and we're going to cut away this outer section here on the left. So we're going to add, in my case I'm going to add red liner tape because I'm on metallic. This will come over and form So this is the base of our box. The two flaps at this end will fold in, this will fold up, and this will be glued over. So that's our enclosed tray. And then at this end, these will be our flaps which will sit inside. So you may need to trim some of the excess off of those if you haven't cut through the score lines. And then our box flap will sit inside. I'm also just going to round off these corners. And what I'm also going to do before I glue it down is I'm just going to add a finger notch with my circle punch. So this is how my piece sits from the back. So I'm going to get my red liner tape and start by adding my tape onto this tab. Then add some tape onto here and put the box together. So I'm going to fold that over and fold that over. Make sure I get my score lines lined up. So that's one side, one end, and then this side is obviously going to stay as it is because that's where my gift is going to go, like so. So apologies for the glare. And then my pots are going to sit in here. And now we're going to add the roof. For the roof of the greenhouse cold frame, I've cut a piece of acetate which is the length of A4 times 5 7/8 of an inch, because I wanted it to sit just under the width or the length of the box. And I've then added some mirror card strips along each of the edges. These are 1/4 of an inch wide, so I've got 3 which are 11 3/4 by 1/4 of an inch, and then I've got 3 which are 5 7/8 by 1/4 of an inch, and I've just layered those on with red liner tape onto the piece. I'm going to then adhere this to just along the top of my box, so it'll sit just along the top edge like so. Now I've only got 2 pots, so I can quite easily get my hand in to take the pots out. If you're having bigger pots or maybe a piece with 3 and you can't get your hand in, what you may want to do is attach, apologies for the glare, attach one side of the acetate to this side, bend this over, and then add a flap onto this end, which could have Velcro, for instance, could then sit on that side with Velcro on the side of the box, and then you could undo the Velcro to lift the top off. So just bear that in mind. That's one way you could get into the box if you've got more pots and you can't get in to get the pots out. So I'm going to go ahead, add on my roof piece, and then finish the decoration of the box, and once that's completed I'll come back. Here's the finished project. So I've got my 2 pots which I've decorated with some die cuts and coloured flowers, and as you can see the lids do come off easily. On this one I just stuck the flowers directly onto the lid, but with this one I created a little platform in green cardstock, so it created more of a mound effect. So we've got our 2 treat boxes, and then the case I just added some shop bought paper flowers, which I added some gems in the middle. We've got our additional gift box section here, and I've just adhered a butterfly to the top. And I think it's a really pretty project, and I'm really pleased with how this one has come out. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't done already, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit the notification bell. Until next time, thanks for watching.